What's up, everyone? I'm Austin Shaw. I will be your guys' narrator and guide to this documentary. To the Extreme! A little docu-series about extreme sports and my time participating in them. I want to first start off by defining what extreme sports are, and what it is, what guidelines does it fall under. To me, from the research I've gathered, the extreme is a natural progression of sports, and sometimes outside of sports, to where athletes push the metaphysical limit of their bodies in relation to their environment, often having to risk serious injury just to be the first one to do something, pushing past that of what most people would consider to be a fun weekend activity, further defining it as the ultimate affordance of art of human motion in relation to the environment around us. Is this extreme? And is this extreme? Well, the short answer is yes. It's all about our progression towards it as we define what the extreme is to us as our own individual athletes. And I found that it is pretty difficult to show whenever we begin to take these sports so seriously. Once you take this up to 70, 80, 90 feet, you're risking bones breaking and lungs being punctured as a result of even a slight miscalculation in your timing. This risk is just completely assumed by all the people who take part in these sports, and the fun for us begins whenever we can actually just take that and throw it out of the window and not even think about it. Just getting into a bit about showing the progression in these sports, I see a lot of guys in these sports having a lot of similar hobbies and interests whenever it comes to their background. A lot of them starting as gymnasts or even divers or BMX guys, and the common interest is, I think, the adrenaline aspect and often the socializing aspect, because some of these dudes are they're crazy, man. The stories that they have are just that of nobody else. And the hype you get after stomping a new trick, all the boys there around you just to hype you up, and it's an inexplicable feeling. But I'm gonna focus on myself for a second here and my progression. I've done gymnastics since I was 4, landed my first backflip when I was 5. It's just been a big climb from there. And it was probably when I was 9 or 10 when I realized that I want this to be a part of my life for as long as I can. I raced dirt bikes, all that stuff. I did BMX for a while, and I was decent at these things. But I was always seriously drawn to freestyle cliff diving. And I've always wanted to jump from the highest objects, do the craziest tricks, but there just weren't really enough spots around me locally to do this whenever I was younger. So I picked up diving to keep myself limber and agile, just to keep myself ready to do some of the bigger jumps if I ever did want to. Back into the adrenaline aspect of it, and in relation to diving. When we go through the motions so many times, we can almost hit an adrenal plateau. And I know I did at one point, where it just feels like you're going through the motions again and again, and even learning a new trick at lower levels off a diving board just doesn't make that click. So naturally, I went down to the wave pool at Settler's Cabin, and I was jumping off their 10-meter platform, which is just over 30 feet, and I got comfortable there, but it just still wasn't enough for me, and I wanted something that would make me feel like I'm about to jump out of my skin. So after a while, we found some spots. So here's my first time going to something above 70 feet, and I'll play the B-roll that we captured, but I don't have the raw clips anymore. Some of this is just easier to show than to talk about. Finding that zone, letting whatever emotions happen, and slowly visualizing how the jump should go. So originally I was going to call this project Aqua Vitae, which is Latin for the water of life. But that's what we jump into when we're freestyle cliff diving. We're most likely going to be jumping around a lot in this documentary, just because that's what we do at the cliffs. It's just throwing ideas around and visualizing how we want the jump to go before we go and throw our bodies around. And that's the part that I hope is captured really well in this video, to really show what goes through our mind before we do this. Finding out how to make ourselves click before we go falling 100 feet, hopefully making the landing click so that we don't break ourselves. Our sport is freestyle cliff diving, like I said. It's a very specialized sport, and finding people who are into it and take it seriously is also really difficult. And it's a part of the process I talked about a little bit earlier, just growing up and networking with some of these people. My buddy Gio, who I met here at Westminster, me and him are on a really similar path with it, and getting to work with him over the past 6 years has been absolutely amazing. Now, I met Gio about 6 years ago while I was diving here at Westminster, and we've hung out on and off, but in the past 3 years, Gio started a career that I've dreamed about and has basically been driving around, finding new things to jump off of, into water, of course, doing the craziest tricks I have ever seen in my life, and that probably anyone else has seen. So meet my homie Gio. Trying to chase down the master right here, trying to get a word from him. He's running from me pretty quick.
My name's Gio Masters. I'm from Hermitage, Pennsylvania. We're out here at Camp Woodward right now, middle Pennsylvania. We're out here riding for the day. Just got back from a cliff jumping trip out eastern PA, so figured why not stop at the coolest action sports complex pretty much in the country. So yeah, for me, I mean, obviously my whole life I've been involved with this stuff. I kind of started out in gymnastics when I was really little, and then after that got into more parkour stuff, and then started getting into BMX, scootering, and then got into diving. And then after that, I was actually riding BMX at this one place called The Kitchen in Indiana. It's a huge skate park. I was doing some stuff on the bike, and then an old school freestyle skiing coach came up to me. He was like, "Yo, can you do this on skis?" I was like, "Yeah." So Then I got a tryout for an Olympic development team for aerial skiing. So it's a bunch of like flips and stuff like that. And then I was living up in New York doing that, going between there and Utah for a few years. That's kind of when I was getting into cliff jumping too. And these past few years, I've just been doing that. And the last couple of years, I've been more just traveling around cliff jumping, but still doing everything else when I can. Yeah, it all definitely kind of made me what I am today with the stuff I'm doing off the cliffs. I'd be way more focused to like just to even like do some of these jumps or like weeks or like months preparing. So yeah.
One way I started to think about this sport is almost like it's extreme camping whenever we break it down. Rather than waking up in a tent, making some breakfast on the fire, it's more we wake up at the jumping spot, throw a couple of rocks from where we plan to jump, and then from there, we usually do a sheets run, sometimes driving separately, and just warming up the fine motor skills while we're driving around, whilst visualizing all the tricks we want to do in our heads. And Gio captures this really well in this one clip that I'm about to show.
Honestly, I don't even like think about it. My brain automatically just like when I do something, I'm just like, how can I like, what can I do like that's crazier, or like what's the next level? And I always just like push it and do that. I'm gonna keep pushing it, and I got a lot of crazy shit planned, a lot of crazy stuff planned. So, you know, mentally, I'm not like worried about it. I'll do it. I know what I'm capable of doing. So, yeah, I just gotta go get it done. It's fun. That's the fun of it.
Like, it's just built into us at that point, and that's what we work with. And then we fill in however many flips we want to do in our head, just visualizing. We also sometimes will shut off from each other a little bit, sometimes. At least with Gio and I, it's been a really big part. Let the adrenaline ramp up naturally and then controlling it. Visualizing the trick and going. With the hours and hours of training and the countless jumps that we've done, it really does just get built into our heads. It's not many other ways to explain it. The timing of the jump, the amount of flips that we do, and it's that part of it that makes it even more extreme for us and more fun to talk about, because a lot of the work is to inspire other people, not necessarily to do what we do, but just to trust their own intuition sometimes. Go with your own flow, which brings me to another part of my research. And it's the question of, can these sports teach us humility and courage among other positive attributes? And again, I think it's yes. Just look at the interviews and try to put yourself in at least Gio's shoes, and that's the max I could really draw out of this quantitatively, and it's a different type of humility and courage, but it comes from our own desire to push the limits of the extreme completely. Just look at this. Again, this is Gio, and he's doing the world's first quintuple front flip, or if you want the name that we call it, a front, half back out. There's only one other person in the freestyle cliff diving realm that has done this dive, and his name is Ryan Bean. He did a quintuple gainer, which is where you do a backflip forwards, kind of like this. For now, that's the max amount of flips that have been done in this sport. Even the Red Bull cliff divers haven't done more than 5 flips max. Kind of show you how far he's been able to push the sport and excel amongst some of the most talented people in the world. It's extremely humbling, honestly, even just knowing Gio and getting to explore the extreme with him. When we go on the cliffs, it's kind of feels like we're kids again at a playground, a real playground that we've envisioned from our younger selves. The imaginary realm that we've kind of brought to life in a different way. Now, there's not really a good way that I can really think of to wrap this whole thing up, at least from what I could see. And extreme has been proven outside of sports as well, but I think I've been teasing a lot of the action clips. What a better way to end this than with an action sequence to some lo-fi heavy metal music. Royalty free, of course. Let's roll it.